Cool. So yeah, no. So first of all, obviously, thank you so much for doing this, because it's obviously. So Ryan was, you approached me after the Milton Keynes event, and obviously I've become very, very familiar with talking about myself and my problems and things like that, and it kind of gave me the idea to do this. You got me, a few people approached me afterwards, said about how they had heard me speak about mental health issues, and just people knowing that they're not the only one. And I know people have had it a lot worse than I have, but I think it kind of put two and two together for me with the whole self-awareness thing. I'm promoting people to try and think about their mental health a bit more, but the realistic side of it is like people aren't going to do anything. Like relatability is such a strong part of it. I think people just hearing other people's stories, and being able to relate to them, and the feedback I've had from it has been incredible. And I think using the TFT and the close-knit group, like obviously these videos, like obviously I'm recording this, and you're cool with that, and then I'm going to put them in the TFT as a group. So I'm going to do a few of these, because I don't want anything like, I don't want like just put your video in and leave it there for a week. So I want to put like 4 or 5 in there, so people can just have a look at them, and they're not going to be there forever. I'm going to put them in for a few weeks, and then take them down, just for for people to be able to watch back, hear people talking about their past experiences, and hoping people can even just even if it just helps one person, we've done something, and I thank you so much for coming forward to talk about it, because it's not easy. And when I first started talking about it, I didn't find it easy. I remember actually the first time I spoke about like my issues on a live, and I could feel myself actually tearing up about it. And it was like, but after that, it's been so much easier. It just rolls out of my mouth now. Like I find it really easy to talk about, and it's really, really helped me progress forward. So yeah, so I mean, you are really, these first group of guys that I've got doing this, you guys are real advocates for something pretty big, I reckon. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah, go on.
I was going to say, I'm actually like a part of a men's mental health support group, and the biggest thing that I struggle within that is that everyone's so different, and that's what I think with TFT, we've already got so much common ground that I think actually that becomes a much more powerful network of support.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. I think with the group, we've all come from such similar backgrounds. Like our stresses, anxieties, depressions, whatever, have all probably come from the same fucking stem. Being kicked from one end to the other with work and stuff like that, and the stresses of having to provide for family, stresses at home. They all come from our industry, and tradespeople. And we've all brought up to be this, to just get on with it. Like it's the classic men's thing to just get on with it, and we've got no one to talk to, no one to, we don't want to appear weak. We just get on with it. We've got families to feed and stuff like that. There's no one above us that we need to, that we have to we can talk to, sort of thing. So I mean, I think today's day and age, the amount of stuff that's changed over even the last 5 years has just been incredible. I mean, I know there's local groups around here as well, and I know like groups are quite tricky for people. I don't think I personally, maybe I would now, but I don't think me personally, I don't think I would have gone to a group. Definitely not. Like, it was something I had to kind of work on my own, sort of thing. But so how, obviously you said to me at Milton Keynes, you said like you kind of got into the TFT as a distraction, right? So it wasn't even really like, it was just kind of to take your mind off stuff. So you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Sean, literally, I've suffered with depression since I was sort of 14, 15, several bad episodes, and I think it was about October time last year, I knew I was slipping. And my wife, she worked nights, so I found myself at home on my own a lot, and your mind is your own worst enemy. So I've become on this little mission really, just to find something that I could do for a couple of hours in the evening. And Sean just happened to have posted something on Facebook on sort of within a couple of hours of me sort of thinking, well, I've got to find something. And I thought, I'll give it a go, stuff it. The money was a lot, I couldn't really afford it, but I was aware that for the sake of my health, I needed to do something. Yeah, so I joined it. I mean, I had no idea what it was, if I'm honest with you. I had no idea. I think I was only in the trial group for about 3 days or something silly like that. Yeah, so I joined TFT, and yeah, quite quickly actually found sort of a bit of an interest in it. But yeah, for me, there was no want to trade Forex. There was no want to sort of work from home or anything like that. I didn't want to spend more time with my family. Of course I did, but it wasn't really the full process I had at the time. So yeah, I quickly found myself involved with TFT, and yeah, met some great lads along the way as well. You know, some people that I'd now consider sort of friends, which is nice within itself. But yeah, unfortunately, for me, having that couple of hours occupying myself in the evening in this instance still didn't quite stop me from sliding. You know, I think, you know, if you suffer with depression and things like that, once you know that you're heading in the, I want to say the wrong direction, I don't really know the right word to use, but as soon as you find yourself sliding, it's insanely hard to stop. To which point, come, I think, end of November, December, I had a flat out mental break. My wife, she knew there was something wrong, because I'd been with her for 12 years, and it was the first time she ever saw me cry in 12 years. I just sat on the sofa one night, just looked at her, and I just lost my shit. So she straight away, she knew there was something wrong. I explained to her. At the time, I was having suicidal thoughts. That for me, there was no. I thought I had tried everything to try and prevent myself from slipping back into this, into depression, and you get to the point where you start, you know, these mad thoughts, you know, that you're going to come up with a permanent solution to something that's temporary. You know, you're sitting there, and you know, I'm going into shops. I'm buying my daughter's cards, explaining to them why I'd done what I was going to do. You know, it's insane. So I ended up having a mental health assessment, and they diagnosed me as crazy. So I was diagnosed with clinical depression.
Yeah.
The key to this is. You what? Sorry, mate.
How long ago was that?
This was only back in November, December last year, 2021. That's after 13 years of battling depression on my own. That was the first time I've ever stood up and gone, I need help.
What made you do that?
I think it's probably, for me, it was the closest I'd ever come to actually, or the worst I'd ever, what's the word? I'd never thought about suicide to the depth I had this time. You know, to the point where you think about it previously, but to the point I was planning it.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I say, the wife sort of clicked on that was happening. And, you know, with that little bit of support behind you, you know, it's everything. So don't get me wrong, it's still a hard process. Yeah. It was the first time I spoke out. I was given medication, and I was put onto therapy, counselling, and I started cognitive behavioural therapy. Which within that, which is something, you know, like when we're trading, we talk about trading plans all the time. A list of rules that we're going to follow, you know, once we're considering entering the trade. But within that, I was taught about a crisis plan. And this is a plan that I follow. So whenever I'm aware that I'm in a bad place, it's literally the same thing. It's a plan. What's triggered me? Who are the safe contacts, the safe people that I can speak to, and I know that I won't be judged? You know, and it's a whole list of things like that. What can we do? What do I do that I actively know distracts me from what's going on or helps to bring me out of that mood? And it's just, you know, it's all silly little things, but you know, and I sit there and think, like, you know, we talk about mindset all the time, we talk about trading plans and all that, but actually, you know, for me, like, I've got that plan for when I'm in a bad place, for and it's almost identical. When it's a set of rules that I've got to follow. And I think, like, for me now as well, like, because obviously we talk about being in the right mindset for trading and stuff like that. Of course, one of the thought process I've got is that when you're in a bad place, as often as I have been, actually, is this a sustainable thing? If we said, within our trading plan, if we're not within the right mindset today, then we won't trade. Actually, I'd probably find myself pretty quickly never trading. So I've sort of been looking into, actually, well, rather than a trading plan, a list of things that are going to adjust my mindset in the day before I begin trading. Whether that be go to the gym, whether that go for a walk, all silly little things like that, just to sort of, try and keep my brain or my mind in a much better place. Weirdly, quite often, as I'm coming out over the last sort of year, as I'm coming out of these bad places, I trade better because I've got no emotion. I don't give a shit. And part of me thinks that, like, when I go to do my evaluation, maybe I should do it when I'm sort of not actually in a great mindset, because that's But of course, it's sort of, again, it's not healthy to be in them places. So it's.
I know what you mean. I'm 100. I mean, how, like, obviously, I always describe the depression that I had. Obviously, not as long as you've had it, nowhere near. But my short-term time with depression, and I always explain it to myself as, like, I had down days, and I would have 1 or 2 down days a week. If probably at my worst was 1 or 2 a week, and it'd probably be 1 a week where I just have a sort of day where I just sort of felt nothing. Like, how often was yours? Was it a day thing? Was it a week thing? Was it, and what I know, I say, what did it feel like? I know, but for me, it felt like nothing, and I had not so much, like you said, obviously you took it to the next level, was when you started to think about the process of, suicide and stuff. But, like, for me, I would definitely have the suicidal thoughts, but I knew, like, I would never do it for my family. I just didn't want to be here. Like, I just didn't want to exist, sort of thing. Like, how would you describe your depression over that long a period of time? Did it change over the years as well?
Yeah, I mean, it changed in the respect that when you get, because for me, like, when I go through the time scale I'm looking at is weeks into months. So, short spurt for me would be maybe 2 weeks. A long spurt would be 3 or 4 months.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Within that, you still have okay days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is, and yeah, I know what you mean. Like, you'd have the thoughts, I don't want to be here, and this is previously, but I had no intent. They're just thoughts,
Yeah.
But I think that was the difference for me last year, is that, and weirdly, it scared me, that actually, I'm sitting here and I'm taking these thoughts to the next level. We don't, we don't talk about, people get scared of that word. How are you feeling today? Oh, I feel a bit suicidal. You'd be like, whoa, what's wrong with this guy? And actually, I'm currently doing an MVQ in suicide, in self-harm, suicide, and suicide awareness and prevention.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And some of the stuff in that, they're saying, if you ask sort of, like 100 men, how many of them have had suicidal thoughts? The thought that not necessarily they're going to carry out, but I don't want to be here, the number would be staggering.
Yeah.
It's something, like, I mean, as we know, it's a well-known fact that the majority of suicides in the UK are men. But actually, the helplines and people that phone up with suicidal thoughts, the biggest percentage of them people are women. Which I sort of think within itself, says a lot about men's mental health. We don't like to speak about it. We don't like to talk about it. And yeah, I was one of them people, people be going, I feel a bit down. And I'd be like, oh, mate, just get on with your day. Because for me, I've been doing it for years. I've just been sort of, you'll get over it, bottle it up, mate. And that massively changed for me last year. My mentality on mental health massively changed. So yeah, you go through months and months and months of bottling it up, and it all I was diagnosed with clinical depression, which is they say you're depressed for no reason. It's just what you are. Actually, when you go into therapy and all that, everything does link to something. No one feels shit just because they feel. I mean, don't get me wrong, you have your bad days, but when you're in states of depression, there is a reason behind it. It may be subconscious. And one of the key links for me was when I was younger, mum and dad split up, and it was a very, very rough time. And I subconsciously had built so much pressure on myself as a husband and a dad that my kids I was not going to follow in them footsteps. I would not put my kids through what I put through. I wanted to make sure that they were brought up better than me, they had more money than what I grew up with, and that their dad was around. And you put this insane pressure on you, and you would have a row with the missus, and of course, all of a sudden you're like, it's going the wrong way, and it's all subconscious, but it is what it is. Ironically, for me, you have this, you put this pressure on yourself to be the best version of you, which then causes you to be depressed, which then actually no longer makes you the best version of you. To the point that actually me and my wife split up earlier this year in July. And I blame myself for that, in the fact that for years she put up with me not being me, because of depression. And ultimately she fell out of love with me. I can't blame her for that. But the thing that I was so determined not to be, actually in the end, I became that through the want of trying so hard and applying so much pressure to myself. And then when you re-enter depression, so you think you've got control of it. I mean, a prime example would be like November, come round to about March, April time. I'm out the other side of it. I felt like a new man. I'd gone through all this therapy. I was on medication. I genuinely felt like the best version of me that there had been for a long, long time. Of course, like I said, me and the wife then ended up splitting up, and you slip straight away. It's coming, and it don't make it any easier. You don't fall any lower, but you fall. It feels like you fall faster. It hits you, and it hits you hard. And I could have kicked myself because same thing again. Not say like I knew what I had to do. I had my plan. I knew what I had to do, and I didn't follow that. I didn't follow that because I thought I was better than that. And again, it's the same mind. It's exactly the same mindset with trading, isn't it? You've got your trading plan or whatever, and you think you're better than it. But yeah, like I say, I've become involved in other men's mental health groups and stuff like that. And yeah, don't get me wrong, they're brilliant. It's great to speak to like-minded people, but they're not. They're all in different. Some of them, they're interested in comic books. I've got no interest in that. Some are, they want to talk about Star Wars, and you just think, no, they're not tradesmen. Do you know what I mean? No, we're our own breed.
Yes.
And yeah, that's again, I just think, to have a support group or support groups within TFT of people that are going through that, I think it would be invaluable to anybody that suffers with depression, anxiety, and I know there are people within the group that do struggle, and I think like I say, that's why I come to you about Mental Kings, because I want to be the person trying to get more involved in mental health myself. I want to be the person that can start to break that trend. Like I said, if one person messages yourself or me or whatever, and that's for me, that's job done. That's one person, isn't it?
Yeah, even like I said, even like you approaching me, and the couple of other guys that did it at Milton Keynes and stuff. It's just like it's an incredible feeling just to hear someone's benefited from what I've said, and it is an amazing feeling. And I mean, how have you been? Like, obviously, you said like after, when we spoke at Milton Keynes, you said obviously everything's still quite raw at the moment, like that. Like, how are you now compared, and like how are you now since obviously the steps you've taken to sort of like, to you know, taking up the training as a distraction, you know, medication and stuff like that. Like, how are you now compared to how we were a year ago?
Right in this moment in time, much better. I mean, I could not be going through what I had gone through now without everything else that's gone on this year. You know, even down to, you know, there's been a few evenings that I felt shit. People don't even know they're doing it. You know, I won't name names, but there's a fella that I talk to a lot on WhatsApp. He does Zooms with us all, and you know, he wouldn't even know he's done it. But I messaged him, any chance of jumping on a Zoom tonight? But Geezer will give you all the time in the world. He's a great fella, and he'll sit there and he doesn't even know what he's just done for me that evening. A lot of the time, it's not about the training.
Yeah.
I've since spoke to him a few times. You know, he'll give me a call every now and then. And then, yeah, there's another bloke, you know, same thing. I'll message him, I'm on the computer if you want to jump on, and we'll just sit there on Zoom marking up charts. And, you know, that's a huge distraction. I mean, like I said, when we was in Milton Keynes, things were a bit raw. I was actually, from the split of me and my wife, I knew I was only just sort of coming back out. A week before Milton Keynes, I was a mess again. I was in a real bad place. So, I mean, it's a roller coaster. It is a roller coaster. The whole thing's a roller coaster. But yeah, the distraction of sitting there, you know, I lay in bed, I feel shit, and I watch Jason's live, or you know what I mean, or things like that. It's just, you know,
I know it's such a powerful tool. This is why I was talking to June about exactly the same thing, and I've very quickly come to realize, well, not quickly actually, like slowly come to realize that obviously I know how powerful mindset is in trading, but from doing I've always wanted to be kind of involved in a group, and I've never seen a group that's properly focused around mindset. Like, it's always spoken about in trading and blah 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 blah, but you know, and when I joined the TFT, you know, even for me, it was like, it still doesn't have enough, and that's why I always really wanted to push it. And obviously, where you're going to start, you're going to start at the core, you're going to start with mental health and stuff like that. But I really think, you know, like I spoke to June about this, and like you've got this thing that is obviously all around trading, but what it's doing as a byproduct and the way it's helping people is phenomenal. And like how it can actually help people. And you know, people come in one end expecting to learn to trade, which they will, but the other benefits they get from it, they won't even have it. Like, if I said to you, well, if I said to most people, most tradesmen, oh, come into this group, we talk about mental health and you know, and compare stories of depression and anxiety, oh, and we do a bit of trading on the side, they wouldn't bother, you know. So people are actually coming in, which is, you know, obviously it kind of tears some people apart, puts us into that 1% of people that are like, actually, no, I want to do something different. I want to earn a bit of extra money or whatever. I want to spend a bit more time at home. This could possibly do it. And usually those people, they're going to have demons because they work fucking hard at stuff, you know, they've worked hard at life. They are craving something better. And when they come in, and now we've got this level of support in there, like, it's a fantastic machine. It really, really is.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I sort of touched on in my thing is social isolation. And they say that social isolation, I mean, first of all, it's non-discriminating. You know, it doesn't matter who you are. You can be affected by that. Things like COVID, people now working from home, are a huge sort of, you know, cause for social isolation. But I was reading this thing, do you remember? Because I don't know how, like, but they were saying it was something like, they reckon that it is just as harmful being socially isolated as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Yeah, no, it is so damaging to yourself, your brain, your mindset, and stuff like that. And that's what, you know, TFT definitely eliminates that. There is no social isolation. I mean, half the time you can't get away from it, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
On Discord, WhatsApp's going, you know, it's absolutely Sean posting on Facebook and all that.
Oh yeah,
it's great. It's great. You know, all that, you certainly don't feel isolated socially. I mean, on the WhatsApp, there's one fella that I've met up a couple of times now, and you know, there's probably another 4 or 5. If I said put on there, you know, who fancies a beer and pick somewhere sort of central, there'd probably be like 5 or 6 of you to go out. I think on that front of things, it's great. In every aspect of whether it be trading, mental health, mindset, or whatever, I think it definitely gives you that.
I think a lot of people find it a lot easier as well. I know I certainly did, to actually talk about my problems with who are at first strangers. But I know these people have all come from such similar backgrounds that I know people can start, will be able to relate. And I'm there like talking about the sort of things I don't talk to my closest friends or family with.
No.
Like I'm lucky to have like my partner, and she's very good with that stuff. And she was one that spurred me to get help, and when I did, but yeah, like I talk about it. It opened me up massively, and I know it has for a lot of people in the group as well. And that's why I think we start doing things like what we're doing now, and people can just start. And I think it's really gonna kickstart it into something. Wow, something freaking awesome, really, of just people. And I hope at some point that we can start doing, maybe fortnightly, monthly, just sort of get-togethers on there of maybe 10 people or something like that, just talking about how they're getting on. Basically group meetings, but like we can talk about trading, we can talk about work, whatever.
I mean, within again, like the support group that I'm in. I mean, and this to me is like a great way. So when you first come on, everyone just has to say one word. And that one word must relate to how you're feeling at this moment in time. So all you've got to think of is one word. So someone goes to you like, oh, how are you today? Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah.
You've got to think of one word. So you might go like down. Some people come out with all these funky different words sometimes. They go around the group and then they'll just pick a word. So explain what you mean by this. Why is that? And it's a great way to start a conversation with people, because initially you break the ice by, I've only got to say one word.
Yeah.
And actually, one word tells a lot.
Yeah.
Who within that group needs to really have the time spent with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really sort of a really powerful way of getting people talking.
Yeah.
Because the question of are you all right or whatever, everyone goes, yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
And I think we as men, we never rock up to them and go, oh, how are you feeling today? And I think that you've got to try and direct question. You don't, all right is
Well, I think we get so used to just saying, yeah, I'm fine, and I like the amount of times I always used to do it at work, and people, even just I was so busy at work, like running my business, running from job to job and blah, 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 and all this shit, and I'd see my best mate and he'd be like, oh, you been up to much? I just said, no, not really. And it just rolled off my tongue, because I can't even be bothered to try and explain to you the stresses that I've been under for the last week. It's just easy enough just to say, yeah, no, not a lot. Well, yeah, a lot, but yeah, I'm not going to talk about it. And like, and like you said, if someone asks, oh, you're right, easiest way out of that, just say, yeah, I'm fine. And like you said, it's getting people to talk and actually realize the benefit a little bit. It's blown a gale here. And actually realize the benefit of actually saying the words out loud, and actually being a bit more accountable for it and stuff. So, I mean, it's great the experience that you've got with, with the groups and stuff like that. I'm sure you're gonna be a massive help with us. And that's great. And great to have another person there. But also, what do you do for a living?
I'm a plumber.
You're a plumber. So yeah. So how how's that been like with what you do? Like, just from like a relatability point of view, like, has your work triggered a lot of depression and anxiety over time?
Yeah, so I'm a manager within the firm.
Yeah. Oh, so you work for someone?
So I work for. So basically, I was the apprentice of the boss when he first started the firm.
Right.
And I've grown with the company, so I'm like second in command. To be honest, there's not very little point in me going out on my own.
Yeah.
How much more I earn versus the stress I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So I oversee all the projects. So sometimes, for example, when we're busy, I might have 5 or 6 building projects on. We do new builds.
Mm-hmm.
We have up to 20 blokes on. Mm-hmm. Some of them have worked for us for a long time. Some of us haven't. It's the most isolating job for me, because I can't make friends with these people. The building game yourself. People come and go. Work quiets down. You lay people off. I can't make friends with these people. I've done that. I've made friends with people I've worked with. I've had them around my house after I've sacked them, you know, having rows with that. You can't do it. You keep everyone at arm's length. So for me, work has become a very lonely place. There's no one that I feel like at work I could talk to. Same as you know, you can't go into somebody that effectively works for you, go, oh, you're all right, mate, and just sort of burst out into tears. Oh no, not really, you know.
Well, with that level of authority, you know, I ran my own company, so you've just got to lead by example, haven't you? You know, you've got to be if everyone else has got to suck it up, like you're going to be sucking it up harder, you know.
And it's a job. Like managerial, I find is, you know, you get it from all angles. You know, I'll be getting grief from the blokes on site because I want them to work an hour extra, or they're not happy with their pay. You'll get grief from the site agent because you're sort of X amount of days behind, and then you're getting grief from the boss because you're over budget. And it's just like, Jesus, like, you know, you get it from every angle. Also, the most unthankful job, because when it all goes well, no one ever says thank you. No. You know, because you've just done your job. You know, it's one of them, isn't it? There's no, also, I mean, we'll be on projects. We do a lot of school work. 2 summers ago, we had a job, for example, we had to repipe a whole school in 6 weeks. We was working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. All the other blokes, they would sort of split their hours across the week, so the plumbers weren't doing that. But of course, I was there 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And I think even on the last day of the job, I think I finally left at 10:30 that night, making sure everything was safe for the school to reopen. And my life is absorbed by work, especially when we've got jobs like that running on. And I say it is a lonely place. You don't have anyone to sort of, you know, vent to, or you know, at the end of the day, when you're at work, no one gives a fuck, do they, how bad your problems are? No. Wrongly or rightly, but that's the reality of what we do. We work in an industry of a lot of sort of stereotypical men, if you like, you know. I don't, you know.
And they've come from their upbringing where when they were an apprentice, they got treated like crap. So you know that you know, so they sort of roll that forward. And I think this is slowly dying out, definitely. You know, people are being able to talk and stuff, you know, actually opening up to talk and stuff. So no, that's great, mate. I mean, like, I mean, so where do you see yourself, like you're on a journey now, obviously, to I mean, do you think it's possible to get rid of it completely?
No.
You think it's just managing it?
I think it's managing it. I think it's understanding your triggers. It's understanding, like, cognitive behavioural therapy is understanding how certain situations that you know you're going to react to that, and it's about preventing that. And for me, that's something that I'm now working hard on myself. I mean, I know blokes within my support group that will say, you know, they've had one bout of it and they would consider themselves sort of out of it. I believe that, and to be honest with you, believing that you're never going to go to that place again makes it a whole lot worse when you do get to that place again. You know, I think, you know, now I've got to accept that, you know, this is me. I struggle with mental health. What am I going to do to sort of keep my mind healthy? You know, and I said to her, like, I've been working on like a wellness plan and things like that, things that I'll do to ensure that my headspace is in, you know, a good place. And I recommend that to anyone, to be honest. And I'd say, you know, within trading, we talk about trading plans all the time and stuff like that. But actually, I said, what about a wellness plan? What about making sure your brain is as healthy as it can be? Especially in something like this, you know, I'm just talking about it in, you know, sitting behind a computer, you know, there's things again like social isolation that could be massive. So yeah, you know, whether that be within your wellness plan to make sure you have a Zoom call for half hour with a couple of other traders a day, go to the gym, go for a walk, whatever it may be, is so important. So yeah, no, I don't believe you can. I mean, I'm no expert in it. From my experience, I'd say no. This is something that I will always suffer with. And yeah, it's just about understanding what situations are going to trigger you, learning how you're going to react to that, and how do we sort of prevent that? When do we, we've got to be man enough basically to sit there and go to someone, I'm not okay.
It takes more courage to do that. We feel like, I think today's day and age, we feel like it takes more courage just to bottle it up and carry on going. It takes a lot more courage to actually do something about it. It really, really does. I mean, on that note, like, what would you say to someone obviously maybe watching this thinking, yeah, hang on, like, this sounds really familiar. Like, it can be a really big, I found it really difficult for me, even like phoning the GP for the first time. I mean,
yeah, it's insane. It's the hardest phone call you'll ever make.
Yeah. I mean, I felt myself welling up when I was on the phone to her, and it's this poor woman. Like, I just feel like, it was just like, I built up so much to it. Obviously, she's just answering the phone, and she was absolutely, I mean, for me, the actual experience, I mean, she was absolutely lovely. She was great. She was absolutely fantastic on the other side of the phone. She did explain to me how difficult it is at the moment with like the NHS, and actually, how they're, and it's crap, and hopefully it will get better, but obviously their waiting times for therapy and stuff like that are astronomical. And I explained my situation as well as I could, and I wasn't, in the situation that you were in, where I was, I was just having these down days here and there sort of thing. And they offered me a small dose of an antidepressant, which worked for me. And I know everyone's different case is going to be different, but, and without having to sort of dig deep and try and pay to go to therapies and stuff, which again is another thing. Like, yeah, one thing is the phone call, but then actually going again then and admitting it to yourself more and actually going and speaking to therapy, it takes a lot of guts. It really, really does. But what comes out the other side is, and it's nothing. And this is the thing that, I don't know, not on the mental health side, but the mindset side. Like, people will always ask me, like, oh, I've got this problem, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't have an on-off answer. There's nothing that can tell, there's nothing that's going to switch this for you until tomorrow. Like, I always just compare things to how far I've come. Like, I look how far, like, where I was 6 months ago, where I was a year ago, and how much better I am now. Like, because nothing's overnight. All these things, they take so long. But you just look back at your journey to see how far you've come. Like, and that's,
you can, which is great. I mean, the only thing that I would say to counter that for me is that that's what I've done. Couldn't believe how far I'd come. And then that's when the second bout, that felt like a train hit me, because I felt like maybe I'd failed. I felt like, it was another thing that I thought I was over this, and you weren't. And that's where I found that very hard.
Yeah.
But
do you think that's made you stronger again? So
So it's the setbacks,
isn't it, that kind of give you, it's like we always bleat on about feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's that made me to that is when I began to accept that, do you know what, just thinking you're over it isn't, it is giving you a false sense of security. You've got to accept that, you may go through bouts of depression again, but you've got to have, like I say, these like wellness plan, a crisis plan, whatever it may be. For me, I now, my sister calls me every day, or I call her every day. And the question, now is not if you had a good day, it's how are you feeling today? And all right is not an answer. I'm good. Yeah, I feel a bit down, or and that is now she is now my go-to person. She is the person that I can talk to about anything. She knows exactly what I've been through. And again, if I say to her, I feel a bit shit today, actually, she'll go, well, come on in, I'll be around in an hour, we'll go walk the dog, or and that's having that person by your side. And that is what I'd say to anyone, is find somebody that you can confide in, that you trust, that you can sit there and explain to them, like, I've got this plan, so when I feel rubbish, I need to do this, I need to do that. And you need to find somebody that's going to ensure that happens. It's going to give you that constantly. Because it's all right writing all these plans, it's all right doing that, but you've got no motivation to do anything. and this is one of the things I spoke to Milton Keynes about, is
Motivation.
motivation. You know, you hear it all the time. Oh, my motivation to learn Forex was to spend more time with my family, to spend more time with my kids. It's great, more money. Yeah, of course, that's what we all want. But what is your motivation to get up and do that? You know, that's not motivation, that's a goal. Motivation's deeper than that. I don't think it's as simple as that. You know, at the end of the day, we're all on a
goes
journey.
back to that, the lonely side of trading, really. I thought about it after you had said it, and it's like, yeah, we have these goals to do this and that, but when you talk about trading, when you're actually there in front of the computer and trading, the only person you've got sat there with you is yourself. You know, you're the only person you're going to let down by your failures. You don't have to tell anyone you had a bad day trading that day. Like, when you should. You should hold yourself accountable, but you're not sat there thinking about, oh, you know, having more time off, having more money, and this and this and that. You're just thinking about yourself, and you're stuck in your mind, you know. But yeah, I mean, that's, again, having a realization of that, I suppose, you know, definitely helps towards things. But yeah, no, it's it's all part and process of it, isn't it? But
no, it is. I mean, I don't know, like, sort of, obviously, like the blokes that are funded, whether what they do day in, day out to keep their mindset. I know, like, some have said, oh, they watch videos and stuff like that, but I mean, I sit there and think, like, oh, do they debrief with other traders at the end of the day? Do they sit down on a Zoom at the end of the day? How was your day? Oh, I lost this, and have, you know, sort of actually have a debrief, you know, and stuff like that to finish that day, so tomorrow starts fresh. I don't know. I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, me, like, it's like, I don't like to portray a picture of, like, I've got incredible mindset. I'm just a hell of a lot better than I was a year ago, you know, and I've developed that over time with how I trade, my strategy, my timing, everything about it. And it's not like you don't just get there. Like, you've got to maintain it. Like, you've got to maintain it. And you have bad weeks. You have bad weeks. You could have a bad month, but or bad days or whatever. But all I know is I have less bad days trading than I did 3 months ago, you know? And it's just this small journey that I'm going on. And I know, and again, I know that I will never be perfect. There's no perfect in trading. There's no perfect in mental health. Like, you're gonna have bad times. It's gonna be up and down. And I think we in the TFT paint that picture a lot more clearly than anyone else. I mean, whether people don't like sharing their failures, their result sheet with a load of missed trades and stuff like that, I totally get that. We don't want to do that, but if we can actually sit there and be like, you know, I had a crap, like on my live, not last week, the week before, I spoke about my crap week trade, you know, and you know, and I lost one of my funded accounts, and just, you know, and I had no problem saying it at all. Like, I was absolutely fine. You know, we have to be completely comfortable with our losses, which again, I don't think is possible completely, but you manage it and you become better. And you know, if it's inevitable that you're going to have losses, so why can I should be able to talk about it freely, and that's one thing I can now, you know, but I wouldn't have admitted it to myself 6 months ago, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's so funny how it relates so much in so many like ways of life. But like I said, like what I do in my day to day changes how I do stuff in my trading as well. You know, like never been an angry person, or patience and things like this, and greed and stuff like that. Like I've always said that, you know, I'm sat in this bubble now where I'm just enjoying life. No, you know, so many traders, they go off ego and they like to post how much money they got and all this and all that. I feel like I'm rich being at home and not having to be out of work with all those stresses. I'm living in that now. And ironically, I dealt with depression in my first year of doing that, you know, and which was something I didn't see coming at all. But it's something I've had to deal with. And like you say, I don't think it will ever go away completely. I think it's there. And it could come back at any time. And it could be to do with trading, you know. I could have a horrendous week at some point, you know, and that could trigger it, you know.
Yeah, so I think it depends on what sort of depression you have. So I mean, some people just enter depression because of a situation. Of course, once you feel that situation,
situational depression, yeah,
there may never be a return to that depression. But I think if you've got that sort of mindset where you was affected. I mean, some people, they're like, I know some people, they're as hard as nails. Anything happens, they're just like, oh well, you
Yeah.
know, it's just like they're not affected by anything. It's sort of, I think that's great. Lucky you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, they say, oh, it's the, you know, it's situation, the situation's gone, so therefore that will never affect depression again. But then I
Yeah.
guess in the same thing, that ultimately you are the person that if you're in a bad situation, it could trigger depression again.
Yeah.
Like I say, for me,
All that chemical.
why I was depressed.
Yeah.
Oh shit, you know, and that was it. And you bottle it up, and it gets worse, and eventually you come out of it. And I don't even know. It took me a long time to understand what triggered it. When you come out of it, it just constantly felt like emotion I went through. 2, maybe 3 times a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think thinking that you won't sort of suffer with it again, or you know, it's
You kind of
quite
set yourself up for failure then, really, aren't you?
yeah, that's
We'll
it.
never
And
say
I
never.
guess that you know, it sort of relates back to into the trading, doesn't it? You know, like having a bad spell just because you've got through a bad spell.
Yeah.
Don't be fooled, you know, that you've nailed this.
Oh yeah, no, it'll humble you more times than you'll ever know. Like it still happens, you know. Like if people think that's one thing. People think people just crack trading. They don't just crack trading, you know. You don't like it. It's so it's so up and down, no matter what level you're at. You know, I think the wins and losses just get bigger. Like you know, you can have bigger losses and bigger wins, you know. It's that's it. But yeah, nice one, mate. I won't take up any more of your time. I really appreciate that. I think, you know, from the experience you've got and stuff like that, like, you know, let's work together on some stuff. And
100%, I'll be up for that. I say my long-term goal is to become more actively involved in men's mental health. I'm doing that outside of TFT, but you know, if I can do that within TFT, like, you know, for me, that's great. It's you know, it's part of my my journey to sort of self-cure. And if I can be a part of someone else's as well, then do you know what I mean?
Great feeling.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you can bring some of that stuff that you know into here, because I'm kind of learning on the job. I've got June in my corner, but you know, I've just always had a kind of a fascination with the human brain and stuff like that, and obviously having my own troubles. It's just, you know, it's bringing it all so much to light. And like I said, just being able to help others, you know, actually genuinely just wanting to help others. Like I really felt like I found my calling doing what I'm doing now, and having a platform to do it with. So, so yeah, no, I really appreciate your time, mate. And we'll get together and have another chat again soon.